What happens when two of television's most beloved personalities sit down for what should be a friendly chat, only for it to become one of the most uncomfortable interviews in daytime TV history? Today, we're breaking down the moment that shocked everyone watching live when a simple question spiraled into a confrontation that ended with security getting involved and one very famous guest being escorted out of the studio. Asterisk, before we get into what went down, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me what you think really caused this whole situation to explode the way it did. Asterisk. Kelly Clarkson welcomed Valerie Bertinelli onto her show with her usual warmth and enthusiasm. The audience clapped as Valerie walked out in a burgundy blazer and jeans, waving to the crowd with that familiar smile everyone knows from years of television. They hugged. Valerie sat down, and Kelly kicked things off with what seemed like easy conversation about cooking, about Valerie's latest projects, about life in general. The audience was engaged, laughing at the right moments, and everything felt perfectly normal. That lasted about 7 minutes. Kelly leaned forward in her chair, her expression shifting to something more serious, more journalistic. She said, "Valerie, I want to ask you about something that's been all over social media lately. There are people saying that some of your recent comments about wellness and body image have been problematic, especially coming from someone who's been so open about their own struggles. How do you respond to that criticism?" Asterisk. Valerie's smile faded. She tilted her head slightly, her jaw tightening just enough for the camera to catch it. "Kelly, I think that's a really unfair characterization of what I've actually said. I've been very careful, very intentional about my messaging. And I think anyone who's actually listened to my full interviews rather than just reading headlines would understand that." Asterisk. Kelly nodded, but her expression didn't change. "I hear you, but the criticism isn't just coming from headlines. There are actual health professionals who have expressed concern about some of the language you've used. Do you think there's any validity to what they're saying, or do you think this is completely blown out of proportion?" The audience went silent. Valerie sat back in her chair and crossed her arms. "I think we live in a time where people are looking for reasons to be offended, looking for reasons to tear down women who are just trying to share their experiences. I've never claimed to be a doctor. I've never told anyone what to do with their bodies. I've shared my story. And apparently, that's controversial now." Asterisk. Kelly's eyebrows lifted. "But Valerie, when you have a platform as big as yours, don't you think there's a responsibility that comes with that? Especially when you're talking about topics as sensitive as eating and body image. I mean, young people are watching. People who are struggling are watching, and words matter in those contexts." Asterisk. Valerie uncrossed her arms and leaned forward, her voice sharper now. "Kelly, with all due respect, I've been in this industry for over 40 years. I've navigated these conversations long before social media existed. I don't need a lecture about responsibility from someone who, quite frankly, hasn't walked in my shoes." Asterisk. The tension thickened. Kelly's expression hardened. "I'm not lecturing you, Valerie. I'm asking a legitimate question that a lot of people want answered. And I have to say, I'm a little surprised by your defensiveness here." Asterisk. Valerie let out a short, humorless laugh. "Defensiveness? Kelly, you invited me here under the pretense of a friendly conversation about my cookbook and my life. And instead, you're ambushing me with gotcha questions, like this is some kind of investigative journalism. That's not defensiveness. That's me calling out what this actually is." Asterisk. Kelly shook her head, calm but firm. "This isn't an ambush, Valerie. These are questions being asked publicly, and I thought you'd want the opportunity to address them directly instead of through publicists and carefully worded social media posts. Isn't that what interviews are supposed to be about? Having real conversations?" Asterisk. Valerie stood up. The audience gasped. "Real conversations? Kelly, you don't want a real conversation. You want a viral moment. You want me to break down or apologize for things I don't believe I need to apologize for so you can get your clicks and your views. I've been doing this too long to fall for that. Kelly stood too, her voice rising. Valerie, that is completely unfair. I've built my entire show on having honest, authentic conversations with people. I'm not trying to gotcha anyone. I'm trying to understand your perspective, but you're not even willing to engage with the question. Valerie pointed at her, voice sharp and cutting. You know what, Kelly? You sit here in your perfect little studio with your perfect little audience, and you judge people. You act like you're America's sweetheart who can do no wrong. But you're just like everyone else in this business. You're using people for content, and I'm done being your content for today. The studio was dead silent. Kelly's face flushed red. I'm using you for content. Valerie, you came on my show. You agreed to this interview. And frankly, if you can't handle being asked about things you've said publicly, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews at all. Valerie grabbed her purse. Maybe you're right, Kelly. Maybe I shouldn't be doing interviews where the host has already decided I'm guilty before I even sit down. This was a mistake. Kelly crossed her arms. Running away from the conversation doesn't make the criticism go away. At some point, you're going to have to actually address this instead of attacking anyone who brings it up. Valerie stepped closer, facing her directly. I'm not running from anything. I'm removing myself from a hostile asterisk. Valerie wiped at her eyes, though her expression remained sharp. Frustration and hurt tangled together. The real issue, she said, is that you're pretending this is a fair conversation when it's been anything but. You blindsided me. Kelly, you weaponized concerns that you know are sensitive for me. You didn't ask out of curiosity, you asked to get a reaction. Kelly took a breath, steadying herself, even as her eyes glistened. I asked because it mattered. Because people were talking about it. Because I thought giving you a chance to address it here nicely would be better than letting the internet tear you apart without your voice. Valerie shook her head. No. You asked because you wanted a moment, a clip, something to go viral. Don't pretend it was some noble effort to give me a voice. I've had a voice longer than you've been on TV. Kelly flinched at that but didn't back down, and I respect that. I always have. But you're acting like I dragged you here and forced you to answer for a crime. All I did was bring up something the public is already debating. You could have clarified. You could have explained. Instead, you went straight to accusing me of being manipulative. Valerie's voice cracked as she responded. Because that's how it felt. From the second you brought it up, I knew where this was headed. You weren't asking to understand. You were asking to provoke. Kelly closed the distance between them slightly, but kept her tone level. If I wanted to provoke you, Valerie, I would have brought up the harsher comments, the ones from experts calling your advice irresponsible. I asked you a careful, respectful question. Respectful. Valerie scoffed. Kelly, you framed me as someone doing harm. You made me sound careless, reckless, dangerous. You put that on me in front of millions of people. How is that respectful? Because, Kelly said, voice rising with a mix of hurt and exhaustion. I believe intention matters. Intention matters. I never said you were harmful. I said some people had concerns. That's not the same thing, and you know it. Valerie folded her arms, her shoulders tight, her expression somewhere between furious and devastated. You should have talked to me privately if you had concerns, not thrown it at me on air with lights and cameras and an audience. You know how that looks, you know how that feels. Kelly's voice softened. And you should know me well enough to know I would never intentionally hurt you. I thought we had a foundation where we could talk openly, even when it's uncomfortable. Clearly, I misjudged that. Valerie blinked rapidly, as if fighting back fresh tears. You did misjudge. Because this, she gestured around the studio. At the audience, the cameras, a looming silence. This wasn't a conversation. It was a setup. And I refuse to sit here and let you paint me into a corner. Kelly shook her head. Not painting you as anything. You are, Valerie insisted. Every time you repeated those criticisms, every time you pushed back, every time you framed it like I couldn't answer, you were shaping a narrative. Your narrative, not mine. Kelly's voice trembled as she replied. And what about your narrative, Valerie? What about the way you've spent the last 10 minutes tearing into me, questioning my career, my authenticity, my entire identity as a host? You think that wasn't hurtful? Valerie's expression faltered. Just for a moment. I reacted. Because I felt attacked. So did I, Kelly replied. Her voice barely above a whisper. The room felt impossibly tense to women with long careers and long histories. Both trying to stand their ground while unraveling in front of millions. Valerie looked toward the studio exit again, the exhaustion visible now beneath the anger. I'm done with this conversation. Valerie. Kelly reached out a hand instinctively, not touching her but trying to halt the spiral. No. Valerie said firmly. I'm not going to stay here and keep defending myself against questions designed to undermine me. I'm leaving before this gets uglier. Kelly swallowed hard, her voice catching. It already is ugly, and I never wanted that. Valerie hesitated at that, her jaw tightening, her breath shaky. Then, she said quietly, neither did I. She stepped away toward the exit, her heels echoing against the studio floor as the audience sat frozen, unsure whether they were witnessing television or something far too personal, and the moment hung there raw, fractured, unforgettable. Valerie's voice trembled, whether from anger or hurt wasn't clear. You know what, Kelly, she said, you're right. Maybe I do need to think about things. Maybe I need to think about why I ever believed coming here was a good idea. Maybe I need to think about who I can trust in this industry. And clearly, you're not on that list anymore. Kelly's voice dropped to a whisper the microphones barely caught. That's really how you want to leave this? After everything? After years of being colleagues, being in the same circles, you're going to burn this bridge? Valerie stepped closer until they were only a few feet apart. You didn't ask me a difficult question, Kelly. You put me in an impossible position where anything I said would be used against me. You wanted me to either grovel and apologize for things taken out of context or look defensive and difficult. Those were my only options, and you knew it when you planned this. Kelly shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. That's not true. I gave you every opportunity to explain yourself, to clarify your position, to help people understand. Where you're coming from, you chose to attack me instead. You made this personal, not me. Valerie's voice hardened. It became personal the moment you used our friendship or what I thought was a friendship to lure me into this trap. You think I don't know how this works? You think I don't know you and your producers mapped out how to get the most dramatic moment out of me? I've been played before, Kelly, but I never thought you would be the one doing it. Kelly wiped her face with the back of her hand. We're not friends, Valerie. We're friendly. We're colleagues. Professionals in the same industry. But friends tell each other the truth, even when it's hard. And if we were friends, you'd know I would never intentionally hurt someone I cared about. Valerie laughed, sharp and almost hysterical. You're hurting me right now. In front of all these people. In front of cameras that will replay this over and over again. You're hurting me and acting like you're the victim. That's what's so twisted. Asterisk, I'm not acting like a victim, Kelly shot back. Trying to have a conversation. You keep attacking me. Keep making this about me instead of the real issue. The issue is what you said and whether you stand by it. Valerie threw her hands up. Fine. Here's your answer. I stand by everything I've said, my journey, my experiences, my right to share my story. I don't stand by how it's been twisted by people with agendas, which apparently includes you. Is that what you wanted to hear? Asterisk Kelly crossed her arms tightly. What I wanted was some acknowledgement that maybe you could have chosen your words more carefully, that maybe you understand why people are concerned, that maybe you care about the impact of your message not just being right. But clearly, that's too much to ask. Valerie's voice dropped to a growl. You want me to apologize for existing? For being human and imperfect? For figuring things out? You want me to grovel because some people decided to be offended? By my honesty, I won't do it. Asterisk, nobody's asking you to apologize for being human, Kelly said, uncrossing her arms. They're asking you to take responsibility for your platform. There's a difference. And if you can't see that, I don't know what else to say. Valerie grabbed her purse again, movements final this time. Then don't say anything. We're done here. This interview is over. This conversation is over. And whatever we had, that's over too. I hope it was worth it. Asterisk Kelly's voice cracked. Valerie, please don't do this. We can work through this. Valerie turned her back and walked toward the exit. There's nothing to work through. You showed me who you really are today, and I believe you. Have a nice show, Kelly. Kelly called after her, voice rising. You can't just walk off my show. We're in the middle of a taping. We have an audience here. Asterisk, watch me, Valerie said without turning around. Asterisk producers scrambled behind the cameras. Kelly looked at them, desperate and furious. Someone stop her. We're not done. This isn't how this ends. 2 security guards stepped out from the wings, blocking Valerie's path. One held up a hand. Ma'am, we need you to return to the stage. You can't leave until the show is over. Asterisk Valerie froze, staring at the guards. Then Kelly, are you serious right now? You're having me detained. Kelly rushed forward. I'm not detaining you. I'm asking you to finish what we started. We can take a break. We can regroup. Valerie glared at the guards. Get out of my way. Asterisk, ma'am, I'm just doing my job, the guard said. Please return to the stage. Asterisk, I said. Get out of my way, Valerie snapped. You can't keep me here. That's called kidnapping. Kelly stepped between them. Nobody's kidnapping anyone. Stop being dramatic. Just come back. Sit down, and we'll figure this out. Asterisk, Valerie stared directly into Kelly's eyes. Move, Kelly. I'm warning you. Kelly didn't step aside. Or what? What are you going to do?